One thing I hate to see are creators I truly admire while growing up who contributed to some of the most memorable moments of my childhood, delivering some of the best stories and entertainment anyone could ever receive, but then eventually catch and become captured by the virus of political correctness. One example of this is Bruce Timm, someone who was responsible for the 90s animated Batman series. And as I mentioned in other videos, this was a show me and my dad and brother used to cherish watching together. Someone who's responsible for creating Harley Quinn, one of the most iconic characters, not just in DC, but comic books period. Then go on to reboot the series and contribute to the gender swapping of Penguin, one of the most iconic villains ever, something I see as a huge disrespect to the original creators. And it makes me think, damn, they got you too. And like any virus that spreads, it's not exclusive to one region, even able to reach people who are responsible for some of my favorite anime, making no attempt to be subtle but in your face, sounding something like a political campaign.
Listen, I'm a transgender woman with a record.
A guy said to me, there will never be a Black Einstein, and that it was impossible for people like us to win a Nobel Prize.
Totally world-breaking, ruining all escapism, something I need more than ever because in my modern reality, there's always someone obsessed with reminding me of their politics, and that's the last thing I want to hear in my entertainment. But whenever there's a base creator who chooses to speak out against the overt political correctness that plagues modern entertainment, it is a true relief and a good reminder there's still sanity in the mainstream creative world. Original Ghost in the Shell director blasts rise of political correctness in games and anime. You can't even talk about someone being beautiful or not without being accused of discrimination.
Yes!
In the opinion of Ghost in the Shell anime film director Mamoru Oshii, while the concept of political correctness may have been born from a place of genuinely good intent, its overemphasis in recent years has had a profoundly detrimental effect on not just entertainment media, but society at large. I highly agree. That's usually how these things work. They start off with good intentions and then become co-opted by bad actors, which leads to making things far more worse than before these ideas were even put into effect, which is why they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and why I'm always wary of activists. It becomes about their personal gain rather than said cause they claim to be for. Side note, he worked on Angel Egg. I did not know that. Shout out to whomever recommended that to me in a recent live stream because I watched it with my brother and I always enjoy revisiting that old classic art style. Political correctness started with the aim of giving legitimacy to socially vulnerable groups, and that's not wrong. In a mature society, that's a natural responsibility. However, the problem arose when, starting from that point, they ended up elevating the socially vulnerable to a position of power. And that was always my criticism of woke. Doing music, I've come across this plenty of times in the artist world. I understand what people mean when they say woke. It means to be enlightened, socially conscious, to have that light bulb turn on above your head moment, to be awakened to the truth, to become knowledgeable after eating the forbidden fruit. But the problem is, the people who claim to be woke tend to be the most asleep. The most ignorant but filled with the most arrogance, a deadly and dangerous mixture. I'm not even being hyperbolic when I say that either. Ignorance and arrogance makes people believe they have morality all on their side, justifying any action they take to bring about their activism. That is very dangerous. Ignorance and arrogance is truly a sin. They get priority admission to schools and preferential treatment and employment before making a surprise reference to the specific operations of narrative consultation companies like Sweet Baby Inc., and this is where he sounding the alarm. What's more, there are companies that charge outrageous consulting fees to guide them through the process. Game companies, for example, are being asked to pay millions of dollars by these companies. I mentioned this before, that it's alleged that the activist company Sweet Baby Inc. tried to extort Black Myth Wukong's studio for $7 million to hire them to consult on their game. And if not, they would get the routine smear campaign levied at them.
Put this stuff up to your higher-ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want. Because they have to consider, like, I say that a lot as a joke, but it's actually very, very true, because if you start to consider the people who are player and audience facing and who have to deal with mitigating harm and with keeping the sentiment around their game and their project positive, there's like a genuine value that you can impress upon them with both ethically and financially. You can say this is important. It's also a valid discussion to have, because if you're working with a very thin narrative budget and you work in AAA, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, or dismayed by the amount of money that marketing can give you.
And that's what happened. These mainstream gaming outlets tried to bury that game, but luckily the merit of that game succeeded through all of those tactics. Because it directly relates to my work, I have a strong aversion to bringing political correctness into the worlds of games and anime. After all, everyone who plays games wants beautiful or cute characters, he asserted. I'm no different, so why do we have to include unattractive ones? This guy is a man of culture and truly one of us.
One of us, Google Gobble, one of us, Google Gobble, one of us, please let me one of us, Google Gobble.
These types of creators are the ones I'm so willing to put my support behind 100% because they so rarely speak out loudly about this, but it's so necessary because it signals to everyone else, especially aspiring creators coming up, it's okay to push back against these activists. We are truly the silent majority versus the loud minority. Why it became so controversial to have beautiful women in media is truly mind-boggling. The act as if beautiful women don't exist and should be suppressed at all times. This is why anime gets criticized by these activist-minded people all the time, like we're supposed to be allergic to fan service. Entertainment is fundamentally built on aspiration, Oshii argued. If you deny that sense of aspiration, you strip away the very foundation of what makes entertainment meaningful. These days, you can't even talk about someone being beautiful or not without being accused of discrimination. This guy is spitting straight truth. Political correctness is the death of art. It kills the creative spirit, which I think was always the aim from the beginning, whether it's movies, games, especially comedy, and art of all kinds. Which is why creators find themselves being attacked all the time because political leaders and people in power always found them as a threat. But creators hold the ideas that can truly shift society overnight, and I think they fear that. Western games have really become terrible, he then declared, all because of political correctness.
You know it!
Closing out his thoughts on the matter, Oshii turned to give his opinion on Disney's failed live-action Snow White, telling the outlet fairy tales are valuable precisely because they can be reinterpreted over and over again. That's the nature of the classics. I reused Little Red Riding Hood many times myself. Saying that only the original version is valid and rejecting all others, that's a problem in its own way. But then those reinterpretations are used as a platform for political messaging. That's a whole different matter. Wow, I don't think I've heard such a prominent creator keep it this real and blunt so far. It's something I've concluded and had been aware of for so long, but it's a breath of fresh air to hear him acknowledge this truth. I've often played this clip on my live streams that perfectly sums it up.
Give people the stuff you know they want, so you can inject things that maybe they aren't familiar with or maybe they don't know they want, but make them like that stuff.
Activists don't curate, they only take what's already been curated, use it as a vehicle to push their own agendas, ultimately destroying the product which many have come to love for decades. Notably, this is not the first time the director has shared his thoughts on political correctness. Critiquing the twist of the theatrical 2019 CG animated film Dragon Quest Your Story, where in it is revealed that the film is not an actual adaptation of Dragon Quest, but rather an isekai story centering around a real-world protagonist. Oshii declared, people play games because they want to escape reality. That's the whole point of games, before making a brief detour to decry how it's the same with political correctness today. Why do we have to bring real-world issues into the world of games, he asked. If the purpose is escapism, then of course you'll only see beautiful girls. That's completely natural. Honestly, I want to ask, why should I have to pay money just to be lectured?
Thank you!
Man, this guy is like a godsend for today's time. All of this used to be common sense. If this article came out decades ago, people would react like, yeah, duh, of course. People want beautiful characters in games and full-on escapism in their entertainment. Reality is demanding enough, especially today with people relentlessly shoving their wacko politics in your face. The last place I want to see that is in my entertainment, and he gets it. A true creative at heart understanding the value in that, and something I highly appreciate. But that's all I have for this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. You know what? After reading this article, I'm going to rewatch Ghost in the Shell because of it. It's been a while anyway, and it's always good to revisit that 90s aesthetic. And shout out to the creators who refuse to bend the knee to these activists seeking to make the world a worse place to live with a dull black and white existence. And if you haven't already, check out my music on Spotify, links in the description. If you love those Samurai Champloo lo-fi mellow boom bap vibes, then my music is definitely for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Free think. Peace.